Well, the attacks across Gaza have continued despite the International Criminal Court arrest warrants against Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu and his former defence chief Yoav Gallant. The move has divided opinion and nations around the world. Let's bring in political analyst Joe Siracusa, who's the Dean of Global Futures at the Faculty of Humanities at Curtin University, and he joins us now from Perth in Australia. Nice to speak to you again, Joe. News today that the UK, which after all generally tends to do what America does, but perhaps a little bit less, has indicated that it would arrest Benjamin Netanyahu if he were to enter Britain. Does that move surprise you?
Good morning, Charlotte. Well, not really. I mean, the Labour Party isn't the Tory party. The Labour Party is very pro-Biden and anti-Trump, as a matter of fact. And you know, they have very different views on what's going on in Gaza. I think the Tories are a little more accepting of reality on the ground there, whereas the Labour Party is going to hold Netanyahu responsible. Now, look, of the 27 EU nations, 23 are members of NATO, and the United States will probably use this arrest warrant as a litmus test in the future about whether the U.S. supports them or not, if they're going to let the Israelis off the hook. Now, the Israelis know how this is done. In 1960, they kidnapped Adolf Eichmann on the streets of Argentina, and they brought him back to Jerusalem for trial because no one, the Argentinians wouldn't cough him up for anybody. They didn't have an extradition treaty. So in this sense, Netanyahu knows that this is a very complicated game. Already the leader of Hungary, Orban, have said they're not going to do anything about this. Poland the same way, Austria the same way, and the Italians are 50-50 on whether they would hand him over to anybody. So, you know, it's going to be very difficult to do this. On the other hand, you know, the International Criminal Court, which is an independent judiciary which has a straight line from the Nuremberg trials, has identified Netanyahu and his former defense minister and several members of Hamas as international criminals based on starving people and killing civilians and the rest of it. And anybody who's been watching TRT for the last 1,000 days knows what this is all about. They have identified them as war criminals. And, you know, it strikes me as odd here that Netanyahu's legacy will be that of the same as Hermann Goering or any of the top Nazis who were hanged at Nuremberg. I mean, he's going to really have a tough time. But as you know, Charlotte, this has unified the Israeli people, many of whom are angry with Netanyahu, but not about this.
I mean, yeah, as you say, it is divisive. I suppose some Israelis would say that this arrest warrant effectively shows that the democratic leader of a democratic country can become the target of an international criminal court and international criminal proceedings. Does that concern you?
Well, yeah, a great deal. Now, look, Israel's defenders in the United States, and I'm here talking about legal minds such as Ellen Dershowitz, has already posted on his blog a defense of Netanyahu here, saying that the ICC is out of line because Israel has a pretty good judiciary, because it is a democratic country. It has an independent judiciary, and that it could deal with Netanyahu down the road if they want to. This is called the complementarity. And so, you know, a number of legal experts are saying that Israel could, because it could handle this itself, doesn't have to subject to an outside power. On the other hand, Netanyahu's sins are, I think they're unforgivable, and they're quite obvious what he's been doing. He's wiped out, well, to me anyway, he's wiped out Gaza. And we probably have twice as many people have died in Gaza than anybody knows about.
And you mentioned the US abducting people off the streets. How seriously should we take US threats to sanction ICC officials and even to invade The Hague?
Look, well, there are a lot of Americans who are fed up with Netanyahu's tactics in Gaza. They don't like the ICC. They never joined its jurisdiction, along with, by the way, Russia and China. They don't like little courts telling them who should be arrested or not. They will use this as a major case. They'll use, I say, this as a litmus test with NATO nations. The American Congress, and that is Democrats and Republicans, are united in opposing the ICC's jurisdiction over Netanyahu on principle. And the principle is they don't want Americans one day facing arrest warrants for conduct formerly in Afghanistan or Iraq or Vietnam or any place like that. They don't want the precedent set. They don't like the idea. But look, Netanyahu is going to have a lot more friends with the Trump government because they're going to make damn sure that the EU members or the NATO members who would actually arrest the man don't do anything at all. Yeah, one guy even, Senator Cotton, said we could invade The Hague and take back whoever we want. Well, that's a bit of an exaggeration, but that's really what you're looking at. You're looking at the law of the jungle, Charlotte, where the strong do what they will and the weak do what they must. At the end of the day, it's about who's pushing people around.
All right, Joe Siracusa from Perth in Australia, thank you so much for joining us and for your insights.